Hey, hey, hey. I have a question. Do you want to know some of the best advice that Mary J. Blige got as she grew her career in confidence? You ready? Get out of your own way. Chaka Khan, one of her mentors, and I may have butchered that, my apologies. By the way, thank you, People Magazine, for this quotable, because the idea of get out of your own way is something I just can't seem to stop percolating on. And I just knew I had to share it with you, beloved, who is also a fellow recovering overachiever. Time and again, when I'm struggling to see my worth, take a step of bravery, or simply be present in the moment, one of my biggest anti-cheerleaders, can that be a thing, is myself. Can you raise your hand if you resonate? Definitely feel free to like that. Guilt, shame, not enoughism, too muchism, excuses, and rationalizations, and all their cronies immediately cram into the committee meeting to shout about who I am and what I can and can't do. Even more embarrassing, I let them in the door and then I offer them some coffee and cookies rather than kicking them out. It's so frustrating. And I'm sure you can relate, which is why I'm rambling about this. The good news is we don't have to keep letting them in the door. And even if they get an invite, all those messed up voices of shame and guilt and unproductive voices, even if they get an invite, we can still boot them out the door. We don't have to let them stay at the party. We can stop the self sabotage festivities and start having way more fun in our lives. So for me, it's been helpful to get honest with God about that I am holding myself back from growing, whatever that may look like, and that I do need Him. And like my husband and I've been talking about, He is more than enough. He covers all, meets all of our needs. So darn easy to forget, right? And another thing that's been really helpful is I actually grabbed my journal and responded to some basic questions that I made up for myself. So one of them was like, what do I want? So why am I doing fill in the blank anyway? Why does it even matter? What am I aiming for? Because sometimes, at least for me, it can be so easy to get caught up in all the other voices from other people sharing the really great, amazing things that they're doing, or things that are maybe not so great, and it can get really messy and foggy, bringing in all that information and forgetting about why am I doing this? Why do I want to become a great mom, a phenomenal wife, be a devoted Christian, a successful entrepreneur who's serving the lives of others? All those, whatever those roles are, just boiling back down to what do I want? Why am I doing this in the first place? And I know personally it's been helpful to actually revisit that periodically, especially when I'm in a funk of kind of struggling in it about like, what am I doing? I can't do anything right. That's when it can be really helpful to pull that out. And so another great question that's been helpful is, what am I willing to do? So you want to grow. Again, we'll go with those classic roles of you're a Christian, you're a spouse, you're a parent, you're a worker, you're a neighbor, you're a friend, all those different things. What are you willing to do to grow? And just kind of brain dumping, what are those things that you're down for trying? You're not opposed to knocking on doors in your neighborhood and saying hi, or trying to make a coffee date, whatever that may be. What are those things you're willing to do? Because sometimes it's hard to remember all the things that you really do have the capacity to do or to try. And I'm not trying to give you more things on your task list. Just what do you have peace about? Another thing that's been helpful is asking, what am I not willing to do? And so where's your party line? And this is also something that might change based upon your season of life. So for instance, for me, I'm not willing to spend hours each week on social media. We'll just look at it from a coffee chats and yoga mats lens. I don't want to become an influencer. I want to be influential. Ideally, I want to help you explore what it might look like for you to live intentionally with passion and purpose as God's beloved. But I don't want to be an influencer. That's not my prerogative. I don't really want to sell you on beautiful beauty products or the best ways, like tools we have to raise our child. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not something for me. So going back to that question, basically, what are you not willing to do? It can be really helpful to respond to that. And then another thing that I found really helpful when I got in my own way was simply doing a quickie slot check. So if you've heard about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, it's a really fantastic, super simple business model theory for evaluating where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, what are your opportunities, what are your threats. I like to apply that to my own life. And I've switched out weaknesses with limitations because sometimes you do have real weaknesses, things that you're not so great at. For instance, I struggle with noticing details. More about that another time. But you also have practical limitations. So currently, our family is a one-car family, and so that's definitely been a limitation with some of the things that I can and can't do. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's a factual limitation. That I have a wonderful 4-year-old who I want to be present with, and I don't want to spend hours on the computer working beside while he's with me. It doesn't mean there's something wrong if you're doing that, but for me, that's a limitation that I've embraced. That's part of it. So just basically visiting what are your strengths, your limitations, your opportunities, and threats. And I think that can sometimes open up some new ways to see the time you have. So throughout the month of February, you can expect a few more lives all about loving you and how lovable you are. Because February is the month of love, and it's also chocolate month. So obviously, that's a priority. But I thought it'd be really fun to explore what does it mean to be God's beloved? And what are some lovable things, qualities about your unique God-given personality that either you forgot or you may not even be aware of? First, though, before I wrap this up, I thought it'd be good to revisit some of those questions because I know I went really fast, and we'll close out. So when you feel like you're pushing up against yourself, that you keep getting in your own way, that these are some steps that might be helpful. Get honest with God, and that's an always, is being honest that you are struggling and you keep blocking yourself from growth, from progress, and that you need Him. And God is more than enough to meet every need you have. And then rapid fire to a few questions. What do you want? I.e., why are you doing this in the first place? What's your motivation? What's your drive? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? And then doing a quickie SWOT analysis. So more so just quickly responding. Again, I'll define a sheet. Here's one example. Big brings up about your strengths, limitations, opportunities, threats. It may be helpful if you find yourself getting in your own way in certain areas of your life, let's say as a parent or as in your career, whatever those may be, really kind of boiling in on those areas, or perhaps thinking broadly. But just what are some of the strengths you have? What are some of your limitations, the things that make it more difficult to thrive, things that you just suck at, and that's okay. We're not intended to be great at everything. What are some opportunities, some things you can try, some things that you're currently doing you can leverage more? And then, of course, what are your threats? Some of those things that are also black holes, things that suck your energy up or just make it more difficult to do what your life, to live intentionally with passion and purpose as God's beloved. So I will wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to chatting with you again throughout coming weeks about how loved you are and what's lovable about you. Bye.